Fair. Well, let's talk about one of your former coaches.
Yes.
Former offensive coordinator, and I got to be honest, I'd heard his name thrown around on Twitter. I knew who he was, but I don't know a lot about his schemes and stuff. So I'm going to be doing some learning here too. Offensive coordinator, newly for the Lions, Drew Petzing.
Mm-hmm.
I asked you to describe his game a little bit because I don't know much about him. And I've had multiple Lions fans ask me, who the heck is this guy? We've never even heard of him. And I think part of that is because Mike McDaniel was kind of the betting favorite to go to the Lions. I think he would have been awesome with the Lions. He's now with the Chargers, and they brought in Drew Petzing. So, first of all, is Drew Petzing a good offensive coordinator? That's the question Lions fans want to know.
Kind of, but no. It's complicated. So you have to bear with me. I talk in stories. It's the teacher in me. So, he came through the Vikings and then to the Browns, right? Before he came to Arizona, he was a quarterback's coach with the Browns, and Gannon brought him, and they had ties together. They brought him as the offensive coordinator. And, when you came in, he was kind of the Stefanski, Gary Kubiak kind of coaching tree. You figured it was a wide zone offense, kind of running game. And he ended up actually doing something like not just wide zone. I've heard people who know much more than I do about schemes and such talk about his running scheme and his running kind of game as very innovative and very diverse, not just one type of thing. Ran the most different types of run plays, I think, in the league, or one of the most. A lot of 13 personnel, so, heavy tight ends, but moving them around, doing interesting things. And when he has the right personnel, his run game is really impressive. It at least has been. Now, there's been a lot of Cardinals fans who have talked about how Clayton Adams, our offensive line coach, left to the Cowboys, became the offensive coordinator, and things fell off. And a lot of people give him the credit for what was going on in run game, which might be. We also, though, had a lot of injuries, like our top two running backs and some offensive line. So it could be that. He has the potential to be a really good run game type of offensive coordinator. And if you're the Lions, you could be excited about that because you have Jahmyr Gibbs, right? And was it Singleton? Or who's the other guy?
Singletary, but he might be on the trade block. So
okay, but you still have Jahmyr Gibbs, and you'll bring in a guy to be, the complement. It's like you have the personnel, and you have in Detroit one of the best offensive lines in the league, right? If not the best. So like for that personnel, I think he will help them to be a very dominant run game. So I would be excited about that. The critiques, though, have to do with his route trees, like not like his passing concepts and route trees being maybe kind of simplistic and not and not slow developing. And that the passing game, a lot of Cardinals fans have really been down on him, feeling like he's a lot of the reason Marvin Harrison Jr. has disappointed. They really blame it a lot on him. I don't know if that's fair. It's hard to know. But there have been a lot of questions about his passing side of things that questionable on that. But also there have been questions just about his actual play calling, maybe kind of panicking in some play calls. There were some plays that were like he called a play that he even acknowledged was in a tight situation was not the right play, a good play to call. Being kind of rigidly adherent to his system and kind of scripts. There's so many times where I've been watching a Cardinals game and it's 3rd and long in a situation. It's like, yeah, of course you run a draw there because that's what we need. And I sarcastically, right? Mm-hmm. There's just been so many times where you needed to pass the ball that you ran with him. So the biggest questions are about his passing game and his play calling. But his system in the running side of things is viewed as innovative, and, the Lions have good personnel. So I think if what they are wanting to do is really lean into being a run-heavy team, and maybe Goff can help make the difference as a veteran quarterback who's got some success in the league, and the receivers that maybe they can make it work better. It could work. Cardinals fan. I will tell you this though. Cardinals fans were out on Drew Petzing before they were out on Jonathan Gannon. He was the guy that, like, as someone who follows Cardinals and sees what the fans say, and kind of has a little bit of a finger on the pulse of what the fans are saying through all of social media and such, like, fans were out on Petzing before they were out on everyone else, except some. The Kyler Murray was polarizing. Some people were out of Kyler Murray years ago, right? But Drew Petzing was the first guy people were out on, citing the issues I talked about and what Marvin Harrison Jr. not developing the way we'd wanted. So Cardinals fans are very down on him. It's hard to find a Cardinals fan who's a Petzing fan.
Okay. And I misspoke. David Montgomery is the running back in Detroit. Yeah. So before someone gets me in the comments, I just want to say
you can blame it on me because I gave the wrong name first.
But yes, David Montgomery is possibly going to be traded, but he is currently still in Detroit. So that's interesting that you mentioned that he was kind of blamed for the passing game going away, because I don't know if you saw Amon-Ra St. Brown came out in defense of Petzing and kind of like what they're doing in Detroit. He said, like, so many of these fans and people don't know what they're talking about. They don't know football. Yeah. And if I'm Amon-Ra, and this isn't a critique, but maybe I'm looking at Marvin Harrison Jr. and saying he kind of fell off under Petzing. Is that going to happen to me? So it's interesting to see that the wide receivers are the ones that are kind of jumping to his defense.
And I don't know if it'd be fair to say that Marvin Harrison fell off as much as he failed to develop.
Okay.
But we don't know if that's Petzing or Marvin Harrison Jr. or both, right? That's the tough part. So Michael Wilson, at least second half of the season, thrived. Is that more the quarterback, right?
True.
Situation. So it's hard to know.
And Trey McBride thrived in the passing game too, as a tight end. But.
Yes. Yeah. But again, I do think some of the critiques are legit, especially the panicked play calling and the questionable, like with offensive coordinators and play callers. You've got your system, which is what are the routes like, how did it develop, what are the concepts, and then you've got your sequencing, the actual calls you choose to make, right? The plays that you call. And I think the bigger critiques are on the play calling, but there are some critiques on the system on the passing side. But again, listen, I'm not an X and O's guy, and Amon-Ra St. Brown knows much more about football than I will ever know. So maybe he sees things I don't, or maybe he's just coming to the defense of his new coach because that's what you do. It's hard to know.
So I know that Lions fans are going to be a little, kind of rear back when they hear that his play calling might be questionable, because that was one of the issues they had with John Morton. Yeah. And Dan Campbell ended up taking away play calling from John Morton in like October, I think, or something like that, or late 2025, something. And do you think that could happen again with Petzing? Because Campbell's shown a willingness to do that.
I mean, I don't think he's going to out the gate try to do that. And in fact, I've been critical of Petzing in the past, not as harshly as some Cardinals fans. I'm a little more tempered on it. I actually think he might have some success there because of how good the offensive line is, because of how good the running game is going to be. They're going to run the ball well, and what Petzing does well is going to work really well. And because they have such an established veteran quarterback who has kind of connections with his receivers, like whatever Petzing's deficiencies are, the Lions could be well positioned to offset that, right? They're going to be just so damn good running the ball that it almost might not matter. And you've got a veteran quarterback who's been there for years, who will know how to make, and he'll work with Petzing. And maybe coaches can get better and develop. Maybe being in there in this new with Dan Campbell and with working with Goff in the room, they adjust the scheme to things that Goff likes, and you get some shifts, and it ends up working. I could see that. Absolutely see that. And if nothing else, the run game is going to be good. Brissett made some things happen even despite the system. Now there were some issues still, but it's amazing how much having the right personnel can really make a big difference, right? So yeah, I could see it being successful, right? But do be aware of those critiques, right? Those I think those are worth noting. But maybe the situation is so much better that it ends up working fine.
All right, I know Detroit fans are still going to be hesitant hearing that, but it sounds like you're telling them to be cautiously optimistic.
There's I can see a way it works.
Okay.
I can see a version of the future where it works.